Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of The Bright Side of Life. You know me, I am your host, Melissa Bright. I am honored today to be with Lee Davy, and he is an inspirational author. He's a creator, a speaker, a retreat host, and a breathwork specialist and leader in global health. So, what are we going to be talking about today? We are going to be talking about radical responsibility and how we can get to true freedom. We are going to be talking about breath work, which you might be excited for because I talk a little bit about this on my own social media and all the wonderful benefits of that. And we're going to find out about Lee's personal journey and how he came to know all of this knowledge in the past 30 years. Yeah, we're going to take 30 years and get down to an hour. But without further ado, Lee, welcome to the Bright Side of Life. How are you today?
I feel amazing. How are you, Melissa? Thank you so much for having me on.
Yes, I am doing amazing as well, and you are very welcome. And as I said, I really want to start with how you got into the personal growth space, the self-discovery, self-mastery. Um, what brought you here? And I'm always curious to hear, how people start on their own healing journey.
Mhm. Yeah, it's been a long journey. The first time I remember asking questions, I was 13, 14 years old. I
Wow.
was like, like I've got this anxiety of I kind of feel alone, like I don't really know, I don't know what this is or where it's coming from. Of course, at the
Mhm.
time I didn't know that's what I was doing, but now looking back, and at 13 years old, I wrote. There's a 12-week body transformation called Body for Life, and it was a guy by the name of Bill Phillips. And I wrote this guy at like 13, being like, I've got this fire inside to do more, to be more, to help people. Like, I don't know what this is. You seem like you've got it figured out, and the physical challenge is cool, but it's more than that. Like, maybe you can mentor me or give me a job or something. Of course, he never responded, but that was the first time I remember being like, what, who am I? What is this? Why do I feel like this? And that kind of opened the door, and just one step, one piece of the puzzle. I like to look at it as a big puzzle that I've been putting together over all of these years. Um, Showed up after the next, and like hockey was my first love. Weight training was probably my second love, and then everything that kind of unfolded from there was nutrition and supplementation and nootropics, and then got into martial arts really young, and then that led to meditation and mindfulness, and since then I've done I don't know how many medicine journeys and learned about the breath and the kind of the neurophysiological aspects of how all this
Mhm.
works and how it all fits together, and so it really has just been a journey of gathering the pieces of my puzzle, and just like any puzzle, the more pieces that you have, the more clearly defined the picture is, and I feel like
Yeah.
that's what we're here to do, is clearly define the picture of who we truly are and what we're truly capable of.
Yeah. Wow, you have done some stuff in 30 years. But I love that you say that because it is so many different pieces of the puzzle. You find out about one thing, or like you said, the nutrition, and then martial arts, and then meditation, and then breath work. And that's my healing journey per se, or how whatever we want to say it is, has really been in like 20 started in 2020. And just like I'll hear one thing and then I go delve into that and find out more about that, and then I hear about the next thing. Luckily for me and my podcast, I have had numerous opportunities to talk to people like you, and that's really where this has all came from for me too. Is I have people like you and I'm like, oh, he said that, what did he say? And and then I'll start going to dive into whatever that is. So it's really been a cool journey how the podcast has unfolded, but like also this personal growth journey as well. I don't think it's by accident at all.
Definitely not. Definitely
Y-
not. There are no
yeah.
pieces.
There are not. I just, for you to be 13 years old, which I don't want to say it's that surprising because I feel like at a lot of different ages, the question is always, who am I? At that age, we're in this awkward, like looking around, like, is everybody thinking what I'm thinking?
Mhm.
But then we get in the 20 something phase, and then we're thinking of a whole nother of like, who am I? Is this where I'm supposed to be? And it just keeps, I feel like, evolving,
Yeah.
of which I don't know if that's necessarily a good or bad thing because so much of it is like societal, like pressures, or you're comparing yourself to that person over there when you're not in that space, at least in my experience.
Mhm.
Um, so you said as a 13-year-old you had anxiety. Did you find at that age, did you find something to help with your anxiety? And if you did, what was that?
It was just every step or every piece of the puzzle was an outlet,
Okay.
and the gym was an outlet, and it made me, allowed me to feel a little bit more comfortable in my own skin. And then, the next piece was an outlet, and it's almost like, again, those pieces of the puzzle,
Yep.
gathering pieces or returning the fragments of myself to be like, oh, okay, like I feel a little bit better. I feel like a little more me. I feel a little more comfortable in my own skin, and with
Okay.
every piece, it's like it just allowed me to let go of those anxieties, and just be me, just be real, just be authentic. And
Yeah.
it's still progressing today. There's still tons of stuff that I'm learning. That's the other thing that I found too, is the more that I learn, the more that I realize I don't know anything.
Which is so crazy to me because I'm like 30 years that this guy has been doing all this stuff. Like he probably knows so much, but that's what you do. But the great thing is you are just basically a student of life. You constantly want to be learning about something else new, whatever that is. And I think that's the most exciting thing is that you do accept that there's always learning to be done, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I feel like it's an infinite journey that we're on.
Yep.
If you look at the quantum sciences and that whole world, um, you know, cosmology and quantum physics and all that good stuff, it's like it says that we're infinite beings. So if we're on this infinite journey, um, then and the other thing I find is that it's allows me to stay humble. Like I think
Mhm.
humility is a really important component here. And
Yeah.
in the breath work, I take people to that place of kind of nothingness. It's like, because you do the deep cyclical breathing, and all of a sudden your thinking mind shuts off, and it's like you're able to come to that space. And that's the approach I like to take. And the perspective is that if we come into nothingness, then we can remember our infinite nature, that we are everything.
Mhm.
But if
Mhm.
we enter through everythingness, we can kind of snag on the hooks of the ego and be like, yeah, I am everything. I am, God's gift. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's not very humble. So, just taking that approach and entering the everythingness, the all oneness from nothingness. Um,
Yeah.
it's just a different journey.
I love that, and that's still a concept that I'm still trying to grasp. I have recently delved a lot more into meditation and, like, spirituality, so learning all of these things are, I don't wanna say super new to me, but they're newer. So, like, that concept of nothingness, like, I grasp it, but I don't know if I've, like, felt it, if that
Mm,
makes sense.
mhm. Yeah.
It
There's a kind of a there's a weightlessness. There's no doesn't feel like there's any time. It doesn't feel like you're in your thoughts at all. Another way to look at it or think of it is just truly being present, like in the
okay.
present. right? So
Okay,
you're not
then
worried about the past,
yes.
you're thinking about the future, or like you're just here now.
Okay, then yes. Then I have done that. And okay, so would you consider yourself a spiritual teacher?
Um, yeah, yes, in a way, and I think spirituality has gotten a bad rap, as well as I think the spiritual community has almost there's been a type of spiritual bypassing and kind of like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm so spiritual. And the thing that I like to remind people is, and human, like we're spiritual and human, so don't forget the human part. And so now I really like the perspective just to take all the spirituality, take all the woo woo away, and say, you know let's look at it as peak performance.
Mm.
Right now, if you're peak performing in your job but not in your relationships, or not with your health, or you feel unfulfilled, then chances are you're out of balance in your life. So can we redefine peak performance, and can we bring that peak performance into every single area of our lives to create balance, to create true fulfillment and freedom on every level?
Mm. I like that. I really like that because even when I guess I started delving into like spirituality or whatever, maybe I thought it was like woo. I'm like, I don't even know what these people are talking about. But for me, I do pride myself on at least wanting to understand. I'm like, without just being like, oh, that's weird to me. Why not actually explore it to see what it is, you know?
Mhm.
Um, the reason why I asked you about the spirituality thing is I haven't had a chance to talk to an expert in this yet, but I was doing a meditation. It was one of Joe Dispenza's. I don't think that it matters on the meditation that I was doing. Maybe it does. It was an hour meditation, and about 40 minutes in, like my neck just started like moving like this, but I was not doing it. And
Mhm.
I'm like, "Okay," like, in my mind, I'm like, "I'm not gonna freak out, I'm just gonna keep going with it." And then that happened, and I posted about it, and then the next day, I'm, like, meditation in 2 minutes in, and it's already happening again, so I'm like, "This is crazy." Well, anyways, I looked it up and I got several different answers. I got one that, I'm releasing an energy that has been dormant in me, which is the Kundalini energy or
Mhm.
something to that. Um, Maybe possibly releasing like some trauma that had been stored. But it was a cool freaking experience. Have you had anything like that happen to you before, like in breath work and meditation or anything?
Yeah, I've had some pretty trippy experiences. Um, One time was after a conference,
Okay.
and um, I actually it was on the plane ride home, and I threw a meditation in, and as soon as the meditation started, my body starts shaking. I start crying. I'm sweating. I got chills, and the whole meditation was just like a reprogramming, neurophysiologically speaking. Like I had a whole new level of awareness of what oneness
Mhm.
means or is, and it's like I think the perception, at least my perception at the time, was that the conversation that I had during the conference and the meditations and the each thing, like the teachings, that each thing
Mhm.
was separate but they were connected.
Yeah.
And it was just like during the meditation on the plane, what came forward was, no, like it's all one thing. It's all part of the same thing. And we were like, during the meditation, we're going through the energy centers of the
Mhm.
body, and it's like each energy center, when we were focused on that, it was like shaking, and it literally felt like a reprogramming of my mind and body, like my neurochemistry. uh,
Wow.
and then before we so as we're just about to land, the meditation finishes, I still have my blindfolds on, and I'm like, oh, we're just about to land. As soon as I thought that, we touched down. So I take my
Yeah.
blindfolds off, and I get I get I get picked up. I was staying with a friend in California, and get in the car, talk to him about the conference. He's like, "Yeah, like I can feel your energy, you know." And we get to his house, and he carries my bags in, and he's like, "Whoa, whoa!" And he's like, it's probably about 6 feet away from me, and he goes,
Okay.
"I can feel your energy." And he's like, "Here," and he goes, "Here," and he steps in. He steps in 6 feet away from me. I swear to God, and I'm like, "I can feel you."
You feel that.
I felt him step into my energy field 6 feet away from me.
Damn. That
Swear,
is freaking crazy.
swear to God. So, like, was that my imagination? Or is that the reality that we can actually, like, when we get into such a space of
Right.
brain and coherence,
Yep.
can we pick up to that degree on the subtle energies that are around us? And that's what I feel like. In part, that's what I feel like we're here to remember, to relearn.
Yeah,
No matter.
exactly. Was he like a spiritual, like, meditation teacher? Or not teacher, but, like, did he know enough about this, or was he just
My friend?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. He's
okay.
like he basically built his house into a monastery with each floor was correlated to the chakras and different things. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, so he built like a medicine wheel in the backyard. And
Shit.
yeah, so he was tuned in as well.
This
Yeah.
isn't the guy from the Human Garage, is it?
No, no,
No.
it's a
Okay.
friend from is where were they? They're like the Bay Area, I believe, if
Okay.
I remember correctly. But
Cool. Well, I love that story, and I for sure believe it. Especially with doing like some of the Joe Dispenza's meditations and saying like, you're creating this field of, well, it's already there, but feeling this field of energy around you, creating it, and I totally believe it. I
yeah,
totally believe it for sure.
yeah,
Okay, so I want to ask you because we are going to be talking about radical responsibility. We're going to be talking about like how to get to true freedom. When somebody comes to work with you in whatever degree that is, where do you usually like start with them, or where do you feel like most people are, so like where to take them? Because I think I'm asking you that to kind of figure out where our conversation is going to go, like what we should talk about first.
gotcha, gotcha. Well, so I've created what I call the freedom method,
Okay.
and it really depends. If this is new to people, and they haven't really been into personal growth, or it's yeah, like it's a new area.
Yeah.
Then it starts with opening, right? Open to possibility, to perspectives,
Mhm.
to the potential of a new personality, right? And that will allow you to create a new identity. We're not stuck with the the thoughts of what we think we are, unless we choose to remain stuck. We're not stuck with the identity and the personal reality that we've created for ourselves, unless we choose to, right? So if you're feeling stuck in any way, or if you're feeling out of balance in any way, and you feel like maybe there's more, you have to open to that idea first. And then once you've opened to that idea, and you start to journey towards that new identity, then we're going to activate and optimize the mind, body, spirit aspects of the self through practice. And what are we going to practice? We're going to practice implementing things like proper nutrition and movement and meditation and breath work and mindset. And if we kind of look at everything as frequencies,
Mhm.
and we're optimizing the water that we drink, the food that we eat, the words that we speak, the thoughts that we think, then we're going to start to optimize the frequencies and aligned the mind, body, spirit aspects of the self, so that they're all kind of speaking the same language, and we start to feel better. We start to open up to, okay, like, wow, like I didn't know I could feel this good, have this much energy, um, what else is there?
Yeah.
And that practice brings us into uh, essentially the third component, and that's aligning and operating the cognitive, emotional, and physical aspects of the self to become the embodiment of that higher vibratory, that higher version of who we truly are. And that leads us to total fulfillment and freedom on every
Mm,
level. And there are steps with regards to creating tax exempt organizations and how we express ourselves and how we align ourselves to the higher laws and stuff like that. But essentially, those are the three components of the freedom method, and
okay.
everybody's got a different starting point.
Yep. It's and I didn't want to say I assumed that was going to be the answer, but we really do all have a different starting point and different perspectives and different limiting beliefs and life's whatever it is. We all have something different.
Absolutely.
Um if you had to answer, just because I'm curious, like total freedom, what does total freedom mean for you? Because if I read that, I'll be like, well, does my what is my freedom different than what Lee thinks freedom is? Or is it like, I want you to feel like this is what freedom is?
So I wrote what I call the Freedom Manifesto,
Mm,
and um, really, it's being able to show up raw, whole, authentic, in radical honesty and radical integrity and authenticity, um, without expectation or expecting anything in return. To be able to travel anywhere I choose, and
mhm,
kind of away with imaginary lines and borders, and so long as I intend and bring no harm towards another being, I
mhm.
should be able to go anywhere and do anything I choose. And if I'm not able to do that, then I don't believe we're truly free.
Mm,
So it's in all aspects and all levels, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically,
okay.
in travel and how we show up in our lives, um, you know, without masks or fitting into societal roles or, the expectations. Like there are many layers and levels to that, and
Yes.
what came through me when I wrote this manifesto. But essentially, it's freedom on every level, and just being
Okay.
able to show up and say like, hey, like this is me, and
Yeah.
being real and being whole and vulnerable on every level, and being able to connect to and express our feelings in every moment, in every situation. Um, yeah, so there's a lot there to choose from, but
Tons to choose from. Are you still doing that? Like living wherever you want to live at any moment?
yeah, and I'm going through a process to really allow that to be the case, even
Yeah.
with regards to travel, to really. Am I freezing here a little bit?
A little bit, but I mean, I still heard you, but sometimes this
Yeah,
internet can be wonky. Now you're
yeah,
freezing.
mine too. Uh, Now I'm freezing.
Yeah, a little bit.
Hello, hello. Yeah,
Yep, I can hear you. I just can't see you as well. But
yeah. Okay.
okay.
Uh, so yeah, like now I'm going through this process that so it's what I'm discovering is that it's a postal process, and that if I'm wanting to travel right now, we've got the state issued passports, and we've got to kind of play by those rules. But the
Mm,
process of going through will allow me to take control of my vessel, of my package, and I'll be able to
mhm.
basically ship myself anywhere in the world, and that will free me from these, like, the imaginary lines and the state issued
Yep.
identification, and you know passports and social insurance numbers and taxation and all of these things. So
Yep.
there is a process, um,
Okay.
up until now, I've been, I've been traveling and in Mexico, and more recently Colombia. I'm back in Canada now.
Mm.
But if anything happens like what did over the last 2 years, uh,
Mhm.
this new process will free me from any mandate or
Right.
anything.
That is really, really cool. I love it. I mean, I think everybody should should be able to get to do that.
And that's that radical responsibility, right? That you spoke to earlier is like, hey, like I really, in order to be truly free, I want to take responsibility for all of my own thoughts, feelings, and actions, right?
Mhm.
And not leave it up to a government or a doctor or a lawyer or anything like that. Not give my power away to those things. I want to take all of my power back, and I want to say, okay, like I'm taking responsibility for this, and I want to lovingly hold you accountable and others of mankind accountable when at times you step out of line or wrong or harm or trespass against me. And I don't want to call somebody to handle it for me. I want to lovingly reflect that back to you so that we can handle it as two, men or women
Yeah.
or that sort of thing.
Right.
It's just a different way to play the game.
Right. Exactly. So, you just said, can you define again what radical responsibility means? If one of my listeners is like, I'm not sure if I'm doing that or how I even do that. What does that look like? So yeah, can you define it for us again?
Yeah, it's really taking responsibility for all of your own thoughts, feelings, and actions, and being able to self reflect and say, okay, like, is this situation or is this person triggering me? Like, is that my stuff or is that theirs? Is this person overstepping their boundaries with me? Are they causing me harm? Are they committing what I would consider to be a trespass? And it's like, if we look at it or even just change the perspective to something like property, it's like if you don't put up no trespassing signs on your property, then people can trample all over it. And the same thing
Mhm.
happens with our body, right? But if I am able to express what would be a trespass, it's like me putting up my no trespassing signs and saying, and again, lovingly, because obviously people do
Yep.
things unintentionally sometimes, and
Mhm.
we get hurt and whatever. But if I don't express that, if I don't express what my boundaries are, then they don't exist. So I
Yeah.
can lovingly do that, and then come into a space. I look at like triggers and emotionality and stuff like that as it's really important to be able to self reflect as well, and take that time and space to be like, okay, like why did that upset me, and was that them, what they actually did that really upset me, or was that more just a trigger and I'm upset at something else, right? So being able to take that time and space and then own your stuff and be like, yeah, you know what, like it's my bad. Like I flew off the handle here, and it was actually something that I was feeling about something else. So it's just really like taking ownership of everything, all of our
Yeah.
feelings, all of our thoughts, all of our actions. And the great thing about that ownership too is that if I created the situation that I'm in now, then I can create and change that situation. I can, and I think that takes us back to this idea of kind of being the creators of our lives, of whatever we desire.
Yep.
But within that
Exactly.
full ownership, I mean,
Yeah.
we're either
Oh,
we're,
I I wish so badly that like more people would take radical responsibility because I feel like so many people, am I frozen?
no, you're okay.
Okay. I feel like a part of, obviously, like you said, radical responsibility is self-reflection, is awareness, and I feel like there's so many people walking around that won't even go there. Like they won't self-reflect, they won't become aware that maybe their thoughts, feelings, or actions are harming others or even themselves. And that to me is some like usually the first step of becoming aware of being like, oh, this coping mechanism is probably not the best for me or for my family or my kid or for my spouse or whatever. Um, yeah, like how do we get to even start looking inward? I feel like it's such a scary place that people don't even want to look and start.
And again, this for me goes back to the free method. Open
Yeah.
to the possibilities, and then just begin to put the pieces of your puzzle together. Because you can't, like, in my experience and my humble opinion, is you can't take somebody from you know being stuck, out of balance, feeling like they have no energy, super stressed, not really knowing what to do or where to go, to, hey, like, we're going to go through this law process, and we're going to have you um, learning to ship yourself and create a tax exempt association. It's like you need to know thyself first, right? And
Yeah.
so that is putting those pieces of your own puzzle together so that you do feel better, so that you do have more clarity, so that you do have more energy. And I think with each step along the way in that, it's people will begin to open up to the idea that there's more,
Mm-hmm.
and if I'm feeling better and I have tons of energy, and and my mind is super clear and I'm super present in the present moment, then it's like, wow, I didn't realize I could feel this amazing. Like, what else is there? And then I think people can start to open up to the idea that there's so much more, to ourselves, to what we're capable of, to this reality, and to freedom that we've never really been given the opportunity to see.
Yep, exactly. Do you what are your thoughts on learning versus unlearning? Like how much do you feel that you had to unlearn about what you learned as a kid or from society or I and the reason why I'm asking this, I just saw a cool quote like about we have to unlearn just as much as we learn, and it's so true because we have to unlearn the unhealthy coping mechanisms, what we eat, what's going in our brain, like all these things. So has there been a lot you've had to unlearn?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still unlearning,
Right?
unlearning, reprogramming. Yeah, however you want to look at it. But and I feel like um, that's part of the infinite journey that I think we're on, is and being able to be present enough
Mhm.
to discern the difference, and just
Mm.
critical, like that. I would say, or I would imagine anyways, that we're we're not taught to critically think. And the way that things like the media and different things work is to um, bring us into such a state of overwhelm, imbalance, and fear that we're not able to critically think. And so just taking those pauses to really ask, like, geez, does what I'm being told to do make any sense right now? Like, is yeah, like that critical thinking, and just really another kind of game or question I like to ask is, do I actually know everything that I think I know, or were they just things that were rituals and ideas, and things that were passed on to me that I've never really explored, that I've never really, like, taken the time to research or sit with or ask myself the questions. And I think
Yep.
if you can do that, then you'll probably start to uncover the idea that you probably don't know everything that
Yep.
you think you know. You
Yep.
only think you know it. And therefore, does that make it truth, or does that make it
Oh. Mhm. That's like a mind-numbing question. You're like it just goes back and you're like, "Wait, do I think I know?" Yeah.
a little bit of a riddle?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, one thing I did want to talk to you about for sure is because you are big into breath work. I've talked about it on my social media. So if we can talk some about, breath work, why it's so powerful, some of the benefits, and I might even ask you to like lead us on like a short exercise if there's
Yeah,
if there's a simple one. But we'll start with, what is breath work and why is it so powerful?
absolutely. I mean, it's the one tool. It's the one medicine we literally can't go without. We can go without food. We can go without water for days, but we're not going to get very far for very long without the breath.
Mhm.
And but we're not again. It's a thing that we're not taught to do. Really, we're not taught to deep cyclically breathe. And that's a part of the process. Is you're doing these deep cyclical um, inhalation exhalations, and we're starting to play with and manipulate the CO2 and oxygen levels. And as soon as you reduce CO2, you're reducing inflammation. And then we play with the holds. And so sometimes you'll be holding the breath on the exhale, sometimes on the inhale, and then your CO2 levels are building back up, but your oxygen is no longer free floating in the system. So that's when it the oxygen itself binds to your red blood cells. So the cells can come out to start recycling and repairing. The same with the proteins; they start to recycle and repair. So we're starting to regenerate our cellular machinery. Um, the body starts to release all kinds of beautiful chemistry and catecholamines into the system, and you create mitogenesis, which is the mitochondria within the cells are responsible for the creation of energy. So you're starting to create more energy within the body. The microtubules, these little hair-like fibers, they start to release old energy. So and the cells actually emit light. So the more of that old energy that you release, the faster these microtubules will speed up and oscillate. And so you're literally emitting more light and coherent energy. So the cells communicate better and faster. The pineal gland starts to activate, and it's this
Yep.
little cone shape that has these calcium carbonate crystals within it that they begin to create an electromagnetic frequency. So now you're connected, more fully to the divine, to the unified field, super consciousness, whatever you want to call it. There are just so many. There's just such a cascade of neurophysiological benefits. It's just such a beautiful, powerful tool.
Oh my gosh. You said so many words that I knew but didn't know. And that's exact like, I know how important breath work is. I know that it helps the nervous system, it helps with anxiety, but as I was looking at some stuff, I saw like a Google question was like, is deep breathing bad for you or something like that, because it'll list all these questions and it said something about CO2. And I'm like, that is too far from like, I'm not understanding it. And I didn't have a lot of time to like delve into it. But that's exactly some of the stuff like you were just saying, like different breaths holding it affects different things like your CO2 and O2. It's just incredible. So I guess then my question, if you do a breath work practice, are you going to tell people like the intention of this practice is to fill in the blank, release some anxiety? It's to da 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 da.
Yeah, and I'll usually have people set intentions,
Okay.
and then we go through the session together. So and typically it's a little bit of a journey. So I'll ask people, what do you want to release? if you're letting go of things, if you're, you know, those microtubules are letting go of old stagnant energies and that sort of thing. What is it that you want to let go of?
Mhm.
And as we
Mm.
let go of that stuff, then we create space, and we're also, as we're going through the process, the thinking mind begins to shut down and become more and more dormant. So now the subconscious mind begins to open up, and that's when I'll kind of drop in little suggestions, little seeds to plant in the garden of the subconscious
Yep.
mind, right?
Yep.
And yeah, it's as and so then as you let go of that energy and you the thinking mind quiets down, you're able to come more into that space of the present moment and present moment awareness, right?
Yep.
And then it's like, okay, from there, what are the seeds that you want to plant? What do you want to call in? What do you want to manifest? How do you want to feel in your life? And so there's this kind of journey that will go on, that is different every time based on the people that are in attendance, and the intentions that they have, and the intentions that I have for the session as well.
Okay. So obviously, everybody can have a different intention. Like my intention is to release some energy, but somebody else's intention could be I want to feel more calm, and then somebody else has something, but it can all be done through the same breath work. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Very
Yep.
cool.
And we'll just, like, the method I use, we literally just play with the breath.
Okay.
So I'm actually breathing with everyone. So I'm in that same space. I'm kind of in
Right.
the medicine as well, rather than just guiding. So that makes it a little bit different. And yeah, it's just becomes a journey, and every journey is different.
Right. I was always thinking, like, as I hear and listen to meditation teachers, like how hard it is to like talk, but then also be practicing as well. Because even today, when I was listening to my meditation, the guy, had to say like what to do, the in for four, hold it, blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
And I literally was thinking, I'm like, is he able to like practice with us?
Yeah, there have been times, it's definitely a fine line to walk. There have been times that I've been in sessions and I've almost been breathing too hard.
Mm.
I've almost fallen over, and I'm like, oh, okay, I better pull back just a little bit.
Oh my gosh. Well, would you mind doing or telling people about like a breathwork practice to maybe I know so many of us like have anxiety uh or if you have a suggestion, maybe where to start or what a good practice would be, maybe I'll leave that up to the professional.
For sure, for sure. So the method I use, is, again, I feel like I was gifted it. It just kind of comes through me. Is called 5D breathwork,
Okay.
and again, it's just playing with it. So we'll do one round, and I'll give you a little bit of a sample of a couple of different styles of breath,
Okay.
and we'll start slow. But as I said, we just play with it. Sometimes we'll speed it up. Sometimes we'll slow it down. Sometimes it'll be, you know, in through the nose, out through the nose. Sometimes it'll be in through the mouth, out through the mouth. And then we just play with the variations as well. And then we will play with the holds. So we'll do just one round. We'll do maybe 40 breaths,
Okay.
do a few different styles, and then we'll do a hold at the end, um, and then take that feeling after the 40 breaths and multiply that by, you know 20-30 minutes, and that's typically what a session would feel like.
I love it. I'm moving my mic from me so you guys don't hear me breathing because that's just going to make it awkward.
So for if you're following along at home, you can just close your eyes, and we're just going to start with in through the nose, out through the mouth, and just relax. Inhale fully, exhale fully, and just release. Inhale, exhale, find peace. Inhale. Exhale, let go. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. We're going to switch to in through the mouth, out through the mouth. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Deeply in. Let it go. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Now we're going through the mouth, through the nose. Mouth, 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 nose. Now we're going nose, nose. Nose, nose. Let go. Nose, nose. Deeper. Freer. Let go. Nose, nose. Now inhale, holding at the top. In and hold. Sip it in. Hold it. Focus between the eyes. Activating. Unifying. Freeing feeling. Letting go. And as you exhale, ride the feeling. And just holding at the bottom. No breathing. No air. Nowhere to go. Nothing to do. Just be free. Here. Now. Finding the stillness. Now inhale all the way to the top. Sip it in. Hold it. And as you exhale, just ride the feeling and find the peaceful breath. That space in between breaths. And that is the present moment. In the present moment, find stillness. The stillness can carry us into the nothingness. To remember, We're everything. It's all happening for us.
That was good.
You're
I
good.
thought I have never done that at that capacity that fast. So for a
Okay.
minute, I'm like, am I going to pass out?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I really have only done box breathing. I've done, a couple of, meditations online, but I haven't done that intensity. And
Mm,
that's what I like. It was literally a whole different feeling that I have never like really experienced before.
that's amazing.
So thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And that, that's, am I going to pass out? I don't feel like I've had a really good session unless I feel that.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay, well good. Then I had a good session.
Oh, all right.
And that's from the CO2 or the O2 being why would we pass out? Like what makes that happen again?
I mean, it's the combination of the cyclical breathing, um,
Okay.
the dropping of the CO2,
Okay.
and with the holds, when your oxygen binds to your red blood cells, that's typically what brings about the tingling sensations, the lightheadedness. But then you're starting to activate the pineal gland, and you're bringing more coherence into the brain
Yep.
as you're shutting the thinking mind off. Like there's just so many things that are happening. There's so many benefits that come from it that it's just why
Okay.
would you ever not take
Yep.
10-20 minutes of breath each day?
I totally agree. And now that you said that, when I did first have that experience, I was doing Joe Dispenza's activating of the pineal gland or whatever. So maybe that's what made it. I mean, it's the longest meditation that I personally have done,
Mhm.
but it's such a cool experience. And I just think we are all breathing, like why not try these different things? And like we haven't even mentioned how like breathing, and this might be a bold statement, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it is creating like new cells, and this is how healing can take like literally disease in our body, right? Because what
Absolutely.
is it? I need to oh My friend Dr. Rob Kelly has a shirt. It says something like when we breathe, like disease can't survive or something to that effect.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
mean, we're creating an alkaline, oxygen-rich environment, and disease
ah,
virus can't survive in that type of environment.
okay. See, you know this stuff way more than I do. But that's why I have people like you on here. So I can learn, and then my listeners get to learn. So
Mhm.
I love it. Thank you. I wanna look back at some of my questions to see if I if there was any other questions that I one question, and we might be going backwards, but I did want to ask you because I feel like so much of the talk today, I guess online or whatever we want to say, is like being your authentic self. And sometimes, in my personal experience, I feel like I've always known like maybe what my purpose was or like who I am supposed to be. But if somebody was ever to like ask you, like, Lee, I don't know who I am. Like, how am I supposed to find that out? When you say be authentic, not necessarily what do you mean by that, but like some people just might probably come to you feeling so lost and like don't even know what to do. So like what would you maybe say to somebody of like, who am I? Like what does that even mean? And how do I find that out for myself?
I would say it's not based on the perceptions of others or even your own perception, and I think perception comes through the senses,
Mm,
and it's like we've going back to the programming and and how we learn. It's like we've before we've ever developed the conscious mind or the intellect to say, wait a minute, I don't agree with how you treat yourselves or each other. I don't agree with your thoughts and feelings on relationships or money or that sort of thing, mom and dad.
Hmm.
Um, those thoughts and feelings become our operating system, and
Yep.
so if you're just kind of on autopilot, going through the the motions in your life, and you feel like you're out of balance, you feel like you're stuck, you feel like like, what am I even doing? Like, I feel like maybe there should be so much more, or you're super stressed, or have anxiety, or depression, or any of these things and thoughts. Then chances are you're living a life designed for somebody else. And I kind of joke with people. It's like, oh, how's everything going? It's like, living the dream. It's like, okay, but is it your dream, or is it somebody else's dream that you're living? And if you haven't taken time to ask yourself these questions and to sit with, this idea of like, man, do I actually know everything that I think I know? Or like, are these programs, is this somebody else's thoughts and feelings that have become my operating system? And if you can open up to that idea, and if you can open up that to the idea that there is more than what meets the eye, there is more than what we're perceiving through the senses. Just to give you an example, like dogs can hear a whistle that we can't hear. Right? That's a frequency that's outside our physical senses. We only are able to perceive 1/1 billionth of the light spectrum that's here. But there are X-rays and radio waves and UV rays and everything that we're not able to see with the naked eye. So there are frequencies that are beyond the perception of our senses. So open up to that. Open up to the idea that there is so much more, and that you were meant for so much more, and that you are capable of so much more. And when you open to that idea, then the answers, the solutions, the tools, the services, the coaches will begin to show up. And then you start putting those pieces together, right? And you start meditating, and you start eating a little bit better, and you start moving a little bit more, and you start feeling better, and you start having more energy, and you start opening up even more to, wow, like, okay, I'm getting older. I was told I was supposed to slow down. My body was supposed to break down. I was supposed to, not be as intelligent, or my mind is
Right.
supposed to slow down. And it's actually the opposite. Wow, like, what else have I been lied to about? What else is possible?
Yep. Oh,
And then that's, yeah, more and more and more and more.
I
And it's
love your answer about the perceptions. Like I hear these things, and I've heard it before, but then it's like you hear it again, and then it just like aha moment, it clicks, you know?
amazing.
And it is. And there is so much like programming and operating systems that we are operating from that are more than likely not our own. And that's okay. Like that's how you were raised or whatever, but what Lee is saying is we can absolutely change all of that and have our own operating system where we are creating everything, and all of our beliefs are coming from within and not social media, parents, society. Meet Maverick. He had
Never.
to make he had to make one debut.
Cool name.
Well, did we leave anything out in terms of any topics that you wanted to talk about? Because I'm happy to talk about them if you feel like we covered a lot. I'm trying to find my mute button.
Not, I mean, nothing comes to mind. I mean, the freedom, it's like I said, there's layers and levels, and maybe an addendum to the radical responsibility and knowing yourself and putting those pieces together is this idea of aligning to and operating from the higher laws.
Mm,
I feel like when we realign with that, I mean, these laws are in place and they're working in our lives anyways.
yep.
It emanates from the law of love and what is true. Then there are the universal laws, which provide all of creation with a mathematical formula, essentially how everything works and what everything in our material world comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the laws of the soul, which should allow all emotion to pass through us freely. And it's like when we can get into alignment with that, then that will allow us to really take that radical self responsibility and express our own law, express our own boundaries, and then man-made law really becomes obsolete because there's no need for it if I'm taking responsibility for everything, and if I do no harm to another
Mm,
being.
yeah. So true. And okay, you just blew my mind. So there's the universal laws, and there's even more laws than that I got to learn now.
Yeah, I would say everything emanates from the law of love
Okay.
and
Okay.
what is true, and it requires that we seek to discover what is true, and it's not based on our perceptions. It's like there is a truth. I always say there are three sides to every story. Yours, mine, and what actually happened,
Yeah.
and that's the truth, right? So it's not based on our lens of perception. It requires that we allow everything and that we feel everything.
Okay.
And then the universal laws like cause and effect and
Yep.
polarity and
Yep.
the Genesis principle, like these are what creation operates from, and these are happening in our lives anyways. So why not do our best to align to them, to keep them top of mind, so that we're working with them rather than them just happening.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
then the laws of the soul are essentially um, would allow all emotion to pass through us freely. And just like that deer that's in danger in the woods and it's running, and then it gets to a place of safety again, it will continue to shake until all of that anxiety is gone. We're literally the only animal that holds on to and suppresses, no, can't feel that, and oh, that's too painful, and then that develops the subconscious mind, and now we've got to go back and we've got to unpack all that stuff. Whereas if you know when we were the 3-year-old 4-year-old kid, if we were just able to continue that tantrum, then our soul, just like that deer, would come back to that place of purity. And then the next thing would happen and we'd feel it in its entirety, and then we'd be free again. Right. But now we've got this backlog of emotion that we've got to unpack. And so when something happens, it goes in the queue rather than us just feeling it fully and coming back to that space of freedom. And if we get all of those into alignment, energetically, spiritually, then I can operate as a man in this dimension and in my reality, taking responsibility for all of my own stuff, right? And then I'm able to hold others lovingly accountable, and be a reflection and be an example.
Yeah. Wow. I had no idea that we're the only ones that hold on to emotion.
Yeah, if
That
you
is
look at
insane.
any other animals, right? It's like
Holy well,
they're,
yeah. Well, because
they're
I heard that like dogs don't feel guilt. And I'm like, are you sure? Because my dog sure as hell looks at me really, really like sadly when I leave or if I like yell at him. But now I want to go Google a deer and like I'm not doubting you. Now I just want to see it because that's like a very beautiful thing. I'll be like, I'm gonna be like a deer. I'll
yeah,
try my
absolutely.
damnedest.
Back to that purity.
Oh my gosh. Well, I tried to look I looked at your website with I don't even know what it's under. I wish I could say. It's the model. Oh, it's the model for the laws and I just could not understand any of it. It was way beyond my my brain. I couldn't understand it. And I won't ask you to explain it, but I'm like, "What? None of those words." All right, I know what's going on.
I've been studying for a while, and
Yeah.
uh, with the whole like freedom manifesto and these different aspects. I'm now studying something called which I alluded to earlier with the the passports and the shipping and stuff like that. It's called quantum parse syntax grammar,
Mm.
and essentially it's taking the interpretation out of our language. So an example of that is, does 2 plus 2 equal 4? Meaning, does TWO plus TOO equal FORE? Or does TWO plus TWO equal um, FOR?
Mm.
So it's completely interpretive unless we're adding the proper punctuation, colons, semicolons, hyphens. So there's this whole process that we can go through to take things from interpretive language, which essentially is fictional,
Yep.
to actually bringing it to facts on a page, and that creates a separate jurisdiction whereby we're controlling our what would be known as the now space versus having a state or somebody or something else in control of us.
Yeah. Wow. You're doing some amazing things, Lee.
I'm, I'm learning and learning to better articulate it all and share it um,
Yeah.
and hopefully in the process of creating bridges. I
Yep.
feel like we're here to create bridges for people, from the old world to the new world, from their old selves to the new selves, to all of the solutions. I feel like all of the solutions are here.
Mhm.
Um, now we're just kind of putting the pieces of that puzzle together and creating the bridges so that we can all walk together across
Yeah.
them and live in a world that truly works for everyone.
Yep. Exactly. Well, if people want to work with you, how can they find out more about you and your work?
So yeah, you can check me out at Lee-Davy.com. Also on Instagram at 5D breathwork. And we're creating and launching some pretty cool things called Origin. So it'll be origin.network. Will be the new site that's being built this month. And we're launching an event in September called Unleash Yourself, Redefining Peak Performance. So that's happening. But for now, I would say just connect on lee-davy.com. Send me an email. I'm happy to get in touch. We can have a conversation and see where it goes.
Perfect. Well, this conversation has been incredible, and thank you for doing the breath work practice. Now I'm going to go down the rabbit hole of more breath work. So I
Yes,
appreciate that.
my pleasure.
um, yeah. Now, the last thing I always ask my guests this, it's the very last question. So,
Okay.
Lee, in your own experience, what does the bright side of life mean to you?
Hmm. Hmm. I feel like I've always been a um, kind of a wild-eyed optimist, and um, and even more recently, I've really been intentionally thinking about and focusing on going back to a childlike curiosity about life, and having that sense of awe and wonder about everything. I mean, life truly is um, and can be magical,
Mhm.
but if we're focused on the negative and the hurt and the pain and the all of this stuff, then chances are we're not going to see the magic. And
Yep.
so the bright side of life, I would say, is we know the problems are there. We know that there's that there's problems, there's issues.
Yeah.
But if we're focused on them, we're never going to see the bright side. We're never going to see the solutions. We're never going to see the magic that is not only all around us, it's within us. And
Yeah.
so, really choose wisely what you focus on, what you give your energy, your time, your attention to. Um, you can give it to all the negative stuff, and I'll reframe that as well. I would say perceived negative, because I believe everything is happening for us,
Right.
right? And
Yep.
so even if it's a perceived obstacle, it's probably only actually an opportunity. And
Right.
so choose to focus on the opportunities, the the beautiful things, the magical things. Give your energy, give your devotion, give your time to that, and I think you will discover that you are actually living on the bright side of life.
I love that. I love that you said that you are actually living on the bright side of life because I feel, just like you said, that we can be there at any time we choose.
Absolutely, and it's a choice,
Yep, exactly.
and it takes training. You know, it takes training,
Yeah.
because again, we're programmed to focus on I'm less than, I'm not enough, I'm unworthy, I can't, you know, you probably can, but I can't, and it's like that's all.
Yep.
Again, do you
Yep.
actually know what you think you know,
Yep.
or is that a program?
Yep.
And it can be
Exactly.
overridden. You can be reprogrammed to actually see the brighter side of life.
Yeah. I think I've been asking myself that question for a while. I just take it from like a limiting beliefs thing. I'm like, did I make up that belief or is that actually the truth? Or is that like, oh, the sunshine is out today, so I'm going to have a good day. Like that's still a
Mm.
belief. Like that's not
Yeah,
the truth necessarily. And so it's kind of the same thing.
yeah.
So
And I mean,
awesome.
the beautiful thing is that you're present enough and aware enough to ask yourself the question.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I have to because I'm trying to get to a different place in my life. So I have to like knock out any limiting beliefs that I'm like, no, that's not even true. That's just what I think is true. And I have
Mm.
to knock it down. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for the conversation, Lee.
Thank you so much, Melissa. It was such an honor, and I love what you're doing. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. Really grateful.
Thank you.